Chapter 11. Ikem is very exhilarated all afternoon because of the compliments that he had just received from the two taxi drivers. The happiness had begun with the reception given to him by the Abazon delegation. The manner in which they had held him in high esteem, the respectful manner in which the senior police superintendent had treated him at the traffic office, and about the contributions of his writing to change the community. But he feels a bit of disappointment that after serving the public, it has yielded him nothing but disenchantment. He wonders why leaders always use the people whenever they want to do something, but they do not give to the people whose name they use for every action. He begins to measure up a list of failures from the government, such as massive corruption to the point that its scale is intolerable. It is also the subservience to foreign manipulation controlled by foreign countries, shutting down of railway workers and demonstrating students, and the ban on independent unions and cooperatives. The leaders have failed to re-establish a vital link with the poor and dispossessed, as they had promised. The rulers are also parasites who have refused to give the masses the basic needs of life. They have broken the chain of conviviality where the poor can joke affectionately with the mighty. There is no way that Ikem can decide to live a simple life without faking it. And so he says, what I know for good or ill. So for good or ill, I shall remain myself. His Excellency summons Chris in his office and in a harsh tone tells him, at last, God knows I did not ask for it. It's you, my oldest friend, you, Anikim, who swore for reason burdens known to you to force a showdown. What more can I say except so be it? He orders that Anikim will no longer edit the National Gazette because of ongoing investigation that links him to the Abazon agitators and petitions. He tells Chris, I want to ask Commissioner for Information to issue a formal letter suspending him with immediate effect. Ikem is linked to planning the recent march to the presidential palace. The people are not from Abazon, but rascals and a lot who live in Bassa. His Excellency is much concerned with the security of the state. Ikem's presence at the presidential palace and at Harmony Hotel is His Excellency proof of Ikem's connection or involvement with the agitators. Most interestingly, the traffic officer had been sent by the government. It's a government agent telling him, His Excellency hints that he is not in prison, yet he should bar from the premises of the newspaper. Ironically, Chris openly tells His Excellency that he will not execute such orders because of baseless accusation from a zealous security officer. Chris suggests that the police sends a query to suspend him. His Excellency does not take the affront lying down and threatens, listen, the way I see it, this matter is not likely to end with mere suspension from conspiracy with things to invade the presidential palace. This may be only the merest tip of the iceberg. He continues to heap other accusations on him when he says there is some indication that Ikem might have colluded with these same people to sabotage the presidential referendum 2 years ago. Lastly, he turns to Chris with, I don't mind telling you that your own role in that fiasco was never cleared up satisfactorily either and may well come up for further investigation. He then gives him a matching order with, if I were in your shoes, I would go and issue the letter as instructed and await further development. Chris tenders his resignation, which His Excellency refuses to validate because he is the boss. From that moment on, His Excellency will take decisions and give instruction personally. He wants the letter to be on Ikem's table by the close of the day, without failure. Chris leaves His Excellency's office unshaken by his threats, when he receives a call from His Excellency that he will take care of the letter himself. He had just wanted Chris to appear as still in charge of this ministry, which is an indication that Chris had been fired. He ends with the referendum and points that Chris will have to answer some questions and that the other matters. The suspension letter is handed to Ikem in his flat by a police officer in the afternoon, signed by an unknown chairman of the board of directors of Kangan's newspaper. In short, Ikem has never heard of such a post ever before, but the letter is signed by such an individual. Ikem takes the letter to Chris's house, where he learns that the latter wants to see him. Beatrice is present, and she expects an outburst from Ikem, but he is composed. Beatrice blames them for their divisionary war, while Ikem believes that His Excellency's actions are personal rather than national and meant for diversion. Chris links His Excellency's actions to a failed referendum for life presidency. His Excellency had complained bitterly to Professor Okong that Chris had not played his part to ensure the success of the referendum, and Ikem had simply gone on a deliberate annual leave of work. Chris had not told Beatrice and Ikem because he didn't think that the remark was important. Chris decides to draft his letter of resignation, advises Ikem to stay silent until the storm passes by, which he refuses. Beatrice cautions Ikem to follow Chris's advice. Elewa comes in tears because she has heard that Ikem has been sacked, but he assures her that he has only been suspended for a while. The four of them watch the news, which features on top story the suspension of Ikem. He is furious about the manner in which the suspension is announced and leaves with Elewa. Ikem is motivated to continue doing his work as a moral voice of the voiceless because of the praise received from him by the visit that he had earlier had. Ironically, things are boiling up on him, as Beatrice had earlier mentioned about the conversation concerning him at Abichi Lake. Kangan is a failed state, rocked by gross corruption and incompetence of the highest degree. The tense encounter between His Excellency and Chris is just a tip of the iceberg of the things to come. The simple visit of Ikem visiting his kinsmen is translated into a conspiracy. It should be noted that His Excellency might be influenced by remarks made by Professor Okong, brandishing Ikem as rebellious. Although he orders Chris to suspend him, Chris had had enough with His Excellency's reckless manner of rule and refuses to execute the order. This is enough to open all wounds and grudges that His Excellency has against him. He holds him responsible for not doing enough to help him win the referendum in Abazon and questions his loyalty or friendship. It is ridiculous to link a simple visit of a kinsman planning a rebellion. This is how dictators behave, and they are afraid even of their own shadows. His Excellency is very vindictive and wishes to punish his old friend for not supporting him wholeheartedly. Surprisingly, Chris is not moved by His Excellency's threat and refuses to execute his order with his threat of resignation. Although he tells Ikem to be quiet, he simply does so for his safety. Also note that the chairman who signs the suspension letter is not known to Ikem, highlighting incompetence. The women in the lives of these two men, that is Elewa and Beatrice, are very concerned about their future and safety. Although they have been worlds apart in their opinions, His Excellency's new action brings them back together to strategize. This is already confirmation of Beatrice's earlier fear that there is a danger looming in the horizon for Chris and Ikem, which will not leave her indifferent because they are the closest men in her life. It should be considered that His Excellency is a man who is very vindictive, and we see his incompetence because he's unable to handle issues of the state in a more diplomatic manner.